Hi everyone, Kim here at Olive City Homestead, and today's video is a little different in that I've decided to start a series called Relaxing in the Garden. And I've done that because I was thinking about some of the channels I watch and really enjoy and why it is that they often tend to be longer videos. Now, I'm not saying this series and this video is going to be long, but I was just analyzing it a bit. I was just thinking about it, and it's not because the videos are long, I've decided. I like them because they're long because I like the video and I want it to keep going. But the reason I like them is because they're so casual and they're just conversational, chatty. I feel like I'm catching up with a friend and hearing about their day, like we're sharing a coffee together or an afternoon drink. And I feel like I'm getting to know them. And I know that's silly in a way, because obviously they don't know me. We're miles and miles apart, maybe across oceans. For instance, I watch a channel set in England, and this lady has, I think, 15,000 or 18,000 subscribers, something like that. And I've made a few comments on her channel, but in general, once you're that large, I would guess that it will be difficult to know your followers that well, except the ones, who've been with you from the beginning and comment a lot. And that's totally fine. I completely understand that. But even without that type of actual interaction, either in comments or in like live chats, I still feel very much like I'm having coffee with a friend when I watch her. By the way, that channel is What Vivi Did Next. And she has gardening. About half of her content is gardening, and about half of it is other things, frugal living. She actually lives without a wage. I think she's around 50, give or take a few years. I really am not good with ages, but something like that. And she hasn't had a regular job due to health reasons for, I think, about 4 years. And so she has all kinds of interesting, doable, frugal tips, and she does things that I don't do, but I would aspire to do. Maybe I've done them in the past, but I'm not really that good at them, or I don't really have time for them. For instance, she sews clothes, she sews curtains, she sews all kinds of things. And she also, dear to my heart, she's a bookseller. She ran a bookstore for a while, but she also now sells books online, sort of antiquarian books, hard to find books, and I find that really interesting. But actually, the reason I watch her is just because I like her. I like her style. I mean, I don't like just one style. I like lots of different styles, but when I find someone who sort of clicks with me, I really enjoy it when some of their videos are just chatting. So yeah, she has, garden videos, and she has how to cook this or that to save money and time, and more regular videos like that. But she also has just, I think she calls them on the sofa chats. And a lot of the channels I follow do have that type of content in addition to their other content. And I thought, I'd like to do that too. It won't be for everyone, certainly. If you come to the channel just for specific tips on, say, how to grow a strawberry tree, or what are these Egyptian walking onions I keep hearing about, maybe about how to start a fruit orchard and keep up with it, which is something I'm still working on, then chatty conversational videos might completely not interest you. But if you enjoy that type of thing, that's what this series is going to be, and I'm going to try to do it once a week. So today I'm having some lemonade, and it's flavored a bit with some cherry juice from one of my cherry trees. Cherries are one of the very first fruits I get in the fruit orchard, and I have to beat the birds to them. I'm getting better at that, and I enjoy them fresh, but I also enjoy squeezing some of them into lemonade. Very, very good. And for brunch today, I am having something I didn't really plan on this morning, but okay, this is how this came about. I was watering the garden this morning, as I do every morning. I have used drip irrigation in the past, and I probably will go back to that in some of my beds in the future, but I really enjoy hand watering. And I timed myself this morning, and it took about an hour and a half to do my entire back vegetable and flower garden. And that's not too much for me. I enjoy it. I'm going at a slow pace. I tend to listen to videos, sort of like their podcasts, as I go about my business, or I just listen to the birds. Anyway, as I was watering, I was really pleased to see that most of my winter squash that I planted has finally come up, and it looks like it's doing pretty good. The birds did get a few things that I'll need to replant, but in general, they look great. But I kept looking around saying, wait a minute, where are my delicata squash? I've got other kinds of summer squash, the zucchini and the yellow crooknut, and I've got the winter squashes, all different kinds, including butternut. But where's the delicata? Because that is my favorite since I discovered it a few years ago. And I remembered that I actually thought of that a week or two ago and intended to go look through my seeds to find some and get them going. And I spaced it, really, so I never did it. So today I went in and I looked through all my seeds, which I really try to be organized with them. I've tried lots of different methods, from throwing them in a box to having them in various categories in pots, like little 1-gallon pots, and because that's easy to carry around. And I have them in photo albums, in the little plastic pockets. That sounded like it'd be a really good idea, but it just hasn't been convenient. Anyway, the point is, I couldn't find any anywhere. And I thought, wow, maybe they're one of the seeds, because there were a few that when I went to order them this year, they were out of stock. And then I thought, but I always save seeds from squash, so where are my saved seeds? And I couldn't find any anywhere. So I was feeling a little depressed, thinking, man, I need to order some of those right away. And then I glanced over, and on the kitchen counter, I realized I still had 3 little, like 4-inch maybe, delicata squash that have been sitting there all winter. I've eaten all the other squash that I saved, all my winter squash, but I had some delicata squash that, it's kind of borderline summer winter in my opinion, and these didn't look that hot, really. That's why I haven't eaten them in the last month. I keep glancing over at them going, boy, those don't look so hot. But today I was like, seeds. So I cut them open, and they were full of seeds, of course. In fact, I've got a whole bunch of delicata seeds right here that I'm going to be planting shortly. But then I saw that the flesh of that squash actually looked super good, and I love delicata squash. So guess what I'm having for, brunch? Does that not look appetizing? All I do is drizzle it with a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of salt, and bake it for about 35 to 40 minutes. And it is so buttery and delectable. Cannot explain how good it is, but you've got to try delicata squash if you haven't before. So yeah, after I finish eating, I am going to go plant those delicata squash seeds. And I'm also going to plant a few more corn seeds and the Christmas lima beans, because I planted those several weeks ago and they came up, but the birds, again, those pesky little, greedy little, hungry little birds, which I love having in my garden. Actually, they're great in your garden because they take care of a lot of the insects. I've never seen a caterpillar or a hornworm in here, and I think that's due to all the birds. So I have to share. But, usually I start a lot of my seeds and then transplant them out. But this year, that didn't go so well for a variety of reasons. So I've been doing a lot of direct sowing, which I tend to actually prefer direct sowing because it's a lot easier. It's a lot less time consuming. I don't have to go through the thing that I don't like at all, which is the hardening off process where I'm carrying the things in and out of the house every day. Yeah. So, and our season here in 9B is so long, it warms so early that direct sowing usually works great. One of the problems this year is that we had a super cool spring for us. The nights stayed cold until like last week. And now we've skipped spring right to summer. It's 93 degrees today, I think, already. Anyway, the point is that the Christmas lima beans and the corn did come up great, but the birds got some of them. So I'm going to go fill in the gaps with my Christmas lima beans and my corn. And I guess you'd say that's my version of succession planting, so that they're not I mean, succession planting is a great idea. You have some ripe now, and then in a few weeks you have a whole nother batch. You don't have to harvest them all at once, and you get to enjoy them, you know, in stages. It makes so much sense. And I have done it a time or two successfully when I've remembered. But this is my version of it, see? Some of the corn is going to be ready, and then a few weeks later, the corn that I'm using to fill in the gaps is going to be ready. So for these plants that I'm planting this way, I will definitely put a wire cover over them, because I want these for me, not for them. And then I think the last thing I'm going to do, well, I have two things. One is I want to transplant my Buddha's hand citrus tree. Not sure if you're familiar with that, but I have one in the ground. It's been in the ground for 2 years, I believe. It's done all right, but it's not thriving. Our winters here are borderline for citrus, for a lot of the citrus anyway. And if you have them in a large container, they actually stay a little warmer. Of course, you could move them inside too if they're in a container. But I think that from what I've seen, how I've experimented with other citrus, that just having them in a container and being able to control where they are in the garden has allowed a lot of my citrus to do much better. So I do want to transplant that Buddha's hand. Buddha's hand is a citron tree, so you don't get a normal fruit from it. I'll put a picture up of what the fruit looks like. And so this is the rind and the pith, the white pith under the rind. You grate it, and that's what gives you that wonderful citron flavoring for different recipes. And plus, it just looks super cool. So yeah, that is something I need to do today or tomorrow. And the other thing is I want to plant my red roselle hibiscus seeds and my moringa tree seeds. So I've grown both of these before to varying degrees of success, and I hopefully have learned from what happened with them. I want to try to get the moringa to be perennial, but that is going to be hard because it really doesn't like cold. And even 9B winters are too cold for it in general when we get down to the high 20s Fahrenheit. So I don't know what I'm going to do, but I am going to try again. And red roselle, well, I just, for whatever reason, haven't got around to planting that yet, and I definitely want to get some of that going so I can have it for tea. Oh, definitely need to show you guys something. It's so exciting. I have a pineapple guava. Actually, I have 2 pineapple guava trees, which I'm sort of growing as bushes because that's how they came to me when I got them. They were already pretty much in bush form. And I could have, trimmed off some of the lower branches, but really there was no reason for that. Actually, in a bush form, they're going to give me probably a lot more fruit. At least that was the plan. I've had them now for 4 years, and even though from my research, I knew that it takes several years for them to establish and that they're slow growers and that you're usually not going to see any fruit for at least 4 or 5 years. I was still disappointed every spring when not only no fruit, but no flowers. Obviously, you need the flowers or you're not going to get the fruit. And one of the things about pineapple guava, or feijoas as they're called, is that their blossoms are just gorgeous, very unique. And I'd seen them in pictures, but never seen them in real life until now. So exciting. I noticed last week when I was watering, they're in my little backyard orchard. My main fruit orchard's down at the front of my property. That's where I have the bulk of my fruit orchard. I have, well, I'm not exactly sure, but I'll have to do a recount, but something like 55 fruit and nut trees. And probably 80 to 90% of them are down there. But I do have a few scattered in my back property. And over on the north side of my back property, I have the 2 pineapple guavas, as well as a couple of Nagami kumquats in the ground. And I have a Santa Rosa plum. And I have, what is that? A pluary. Those are really cool. It's a cross between a plum and a cherry. They're really good. And they're fertilized by the Santa Rosa plum. Oh, and a couple of figs. Tiger panache. I think the other one, is a strawberry fig. I can't remember exactly. Those are young and they haven't fruited yet, so maybe this year, maybe next year. But anyway, main point is these pineapple guavas. I don't know if I'm going to get fruit, but what a great sign and so beautiful to see these blossoms, and I'll show them to you now. These are the pineapple guava blossoms. Aren't they gorgeous? Aren't they fascinating? I'm just in love with them. Although, yes, I would be more in love with fruit from them, but right now I'm just so happy that the pineapple guava bush is blossoming. I just saw a bird over in my purple tree kale. It's a bird I've never seen before, and I'm not really good with bird names. I love birds, but I've never really been a bird watcher in the sense of, getting into what they are. Not only do I not know the names, but I can't really tell them apart. But this one I could tell was different. Very different coloring from anything I've ever seen. It wasn't a blue jay. We get a lot of those. It wasn't a dove or a blackbird or a robin or anything obvious. But it had a lot of red and brown and orange coloring. But again, not a robin. And anyway, it was enjoying the heck out of the purple tree kale, which is fine because I have so much of it. I'm happy to share. I just enjoy my garden so much. At different times of the day, I can come out and find a different spot that's a little shady from a different tree or from here, from my umbrella table. And I can just relax and enjoy the beauty and the interesting growth on these different plants that I love to experiment with. Even the ones that come back year after year, they often surprise me with their variations, and it's just amazing to me how much nature can fill me up and satisfy me and excite me at times. I hope that you also are enjoying your garden, the garden you're creating. I also love the fact that we can watch and help our gardens evolve in different ways through the years. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining me for my first Relaxing in the Garden video, and I hope to see you again next week. Take care, everyone.